Hi, everybody. Welcome to our podcast entitled I Say All That to Say, where we talk about life, parenting, current events, and whatever else. My name is Brooke, and
And
this is,
Terrell.
and welcome. So,
All
what
right.
are we talking about today?
Oh man, a lot of stuff going on today. I wanted to ask you a question, right?
Okay.
With all of this Dr. Bryant stuff going on,
Okay.
Cheyenne Bryant, I wanted to get your perspective, especially since you have certification, you have degrees. You can give the fans and the watchers a little bit background on your story, and then we'll get into some of the questions I have for you as a clinician.
Okay. So, my background is in clinical social work. I previously have done some psychotherapy. I've done nonprofit work, education stuff,
Tell them
business
about
stuff.
tell them about your degrees.
My degrees,
What do
they
you have
are
degrees in?
in social work. So I have a master of social work, master of divinity. Um, what else? I've been trained in trauma informed practices. I've been trained in some business practices as well. So I really like to look at behavioral health in light of organizational systems. Anyway, so he's asking me this because, oh, I also have a coaching certificate. I forgot about that too.
Yeah,
Got a few
a lot
things.
of training.
So the conversation around Cheyenne Bryant has been pretty interesting because it's a tricky thing for me. Do you want to ask a question first? Do you want to just
No, so
hear my
here's
feedback?
what I'll say. Right, I've seen her online. She operates in the coaching therapy realm, and I think the conversation around her doctorate has been pretty crazy because apparently someone asked, I don't know if somebody asked her to prove that she had a doctorate degree, but she couldn't prove it. She said she went to Argyle University,
Argosy.
Argosy University, the university closed. Um, and so there's a lot of conversation revolving around that, right? So
Hmm.
as someone who has gone through various forms of training, as somebody who has the degrees, what do you feel when somebody is in that lane and maybe using a title that they may not have necessarily earned or achieved? Like, how do you
I,
feel about that? Because there's been a lot of, I don't want to call it hate. There's been a lot of criticism online because she's calling herself a doctor, and I'll get into my thoughts about that a little bit later, though.
I think the tricky thing about it is because her lane is coaching. You don't need a degree for that. You don't need a special title. So the fact that she is using one is something about her and her personal preference, the way she thought that she had to go after business. There's something there that it doesn't need coaching for that, right? And maybe because she also calls herself a psychology expert, that she wanted the doctorate to support that. I
Mhm.
don't know. It's very strange because, like I said, that educational piece isn't needed. The university, you can still get the records, but she's claiming that she can't. But it's just that whole piece is just like, why are you doing that exactly? Now we can see that her niche is around like celebrities and higher income people. Do they need that doctorate? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I think a lot of times people in those lanes, it's like word of mouth. So she's already found herself in the celebrity avenue, the reality TV space. She's already there. Did that help her get there? I have no idea. I didn't really follow her career to know, but maybe for her, she felt like that. But there's a real fine line because she's not just a life coach helping someone with their goals. She's talking about being a psychology expert. So now you're really leaning into that mental health space. And even if she is doing therapy, well, therapy I think generally is not a protected title because you can have a physical therapist who does something totally different than a mental health therapist. So that's not a protected title, but like social worker is a protected title. So you can't go around calling yourself a social worker without the educational background behind it because there are some legal issues around that. So because she's doing that, she's kind of getting herself out of that what is it? What's it called? Out of the what am I trying to say? She doesn't have that regulation
Right.
around it.
I think one of the criticisms were, at least when I saw it kind of pop off, was that they asked her something about taking insurance or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then she mentioned like I don't know. Do you remember what that was in terms of
Yeah,
her?
she said something like you have to have the degree for insurance, not the degree. What did she say? Licensure. You have to have licensure to take insurance, and she wanted to do her business her own way, and so she doesn't need that. Something like that. I don't
True,
know.
is
I'm
that
paraphrasing.
is that true or false?
For to get reimbursed by insurance for mental health, you do need licensure.
Okay.
You do not need to be licensed in order. Hold on. Let me backtrack because I'm about to say something crazy. That's not true. You need the licensure in order to get reimbursed by insurance. You need the licensure to do therapy, have these protected titles. You do not need to take insurance if you want to do therapy.
Correct.
That is a separate thing. That is a certain type of business. Some private practices or people who do therapy, they take insurance in network. Some do insurance out of network. Some do not take insurance at all. So that is considered private pay. She could have had her doctorate degree, got licensed to practice therapy clinically, and provided private pay therapy if she wanted to,
Right.
if that was the stats. And somehow that ain't what happened.
All right. So few things I found out. Right. First being, when a university closes, there's an agency that takes on the records. They take on those records indefinitely. Right. So there's that aspect. Um, Something else. Actually, that's the most important thing: being able to get your records, your degree, and stuff like that. Forget the dissertations and everything like that. Um, so the further questions or further discussion I want to have is, in terms of being like, so we live in a capitalist society, right? So how far do you push those limits, right? Because myself, I struggle with ethics and morals in terms of trying to provide for your family, trying to make a living, and you can see even by the political situation going on in the country that you don't have any. For the people at the top, they don't have any morals, and they're the ultra wealthy, super rich. Um, Not saying she doesn't have morals, but in terms of that title, there's questions around that. But what's the limit, right? I was raised in the church, so the idea was, you walk a fine line. God and Jesus will provide for you; they'll bless you and stuff like that. So when I get in these situations, especially like corporate America and stuff like that, and you see people not operating in this, because I was raised, and not only raised but conditioned a certain way. It's like, where is how can I operate in the gray without losing myself, or should I operate in the gray? So, like, what do you think about that?
Listen,
Mm.
I struggle with capitalism, right? Because I definitely don't believe that there are any ethical billionaires. Like, I'm one of those types. Like, I don't care what you say. And you know what? Um, they don't have to defend themselves because all the non-billionaires do it for them, right? So they can stay there because you gonna say, but they worked for it. No, they didn't. Okay, no, they did not. You as a billionaire ain't working more than somebody else. Like, you just not. So the ethics around capitalism is real, like, crazy to me. And so, but you see it on these lower levels where people are, I have this degree or I don't. Like, I heard a joke going around about, like, people go ahead and say you worked for Spirit
Spirit
Airlines
Airlines.
because it closed. Like,
Right.
and it's like,
Director of transportation.
director just say, who's going to prove it? So you have these things, and part of it for me is, and I always think about this, like, I think that the reason why people do a lot of things that they do is because of the systems that are in place. And there are systems in place from capitalism, from white supremacy, from, like, all these things to kind of have this huge gap and divide between people financially. And so when you have that, people start doing things that they can to work the system, to get around the system, because they want what 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 was um what was told to us that we should have: the
Mhm.
American dream, the go to college, get a good job, have your house with your white picket fence and your 2.5 kids. That is, some variation of that is what people are going for, trying to survive and trying to just have a decent life, a good life, a better life. And so people do these things, and this system is made for that. I mean, every single system is seriously problematic. And so I'm not saying it to excuse what people do, but just to try to understand what people do. And I think you have to be really careful with that, because in some cases, like, okay, if I'm lying about my degree and I make sofas, maybe that doesn't matter as much if I made a good sofa. But if I'm lying about my degree and I'm operating in a space of like mental health or with people's housing or something like that, that can get real tricky, because now you are potentially playing with people's lives. Maybe you're doing some good, but when you're not, then what? Do you have regulations in place to hold you accountable? Do you have um, referrals in place to where things have gone too far for you, to where you can't help them, so they need other help? Do you have those in place? And when you start lying about stuff, or when you don't have regulations set up, it's easy for people to fall through the cracks and people to really get harmed. So and in the system of capitalism anyway, a lot of people get harmed. Like I said, you have a billionaire who, oh, they have this job, oh, they make all this money, and then you act like somebody who makes $50,000 isn't working as hard, but yet they have three jobs. So like, what are you talking about? So I will go off on
Yeah.
a tangent on this, but I think you have to be really careful with that, and I don't know that there's a clear answer.
Right. Yeah. So let me circle back and kind of give my thoughts. Right. So from her perspective, like like we have discussions about what pretty privilege is. Right. When you look a
Hmm.
certain way, you dress a certain way, you gotta garner more attention. Right.
Hmm.
So she's not an unattractive lady. Right. So she has that. She's well spoken. What I've noticed is she mixes in the spiritual stuff. So she's probably a Christian, right? So as a solo entrepreneur, especially I think she's out in California, trying to make it. I'm trying to think about it from her perspective. Like, what do you do to get on top? Now, maybe she was studying for a degree. Whether or not she finished it is still up in the air. You tack on all of what I mentioned, and then now you actually have created a brand. Now, regardless of if we excuse me, regardless of whether or not we criticize her, it doesn't matter. She's still in doing research for this. We've seen she's still doing her normal stuff. She got a doc squad now, so she is a capitalist, hands down, right? So regardless of everybody coming out critiquing her, she's posting, she's getting views. I'm pretty sure she's getting paid from all of the Facebook content, because when you post on Facebook and you're a creator, you get paid for that. So all of these views is just lining her pockets anyway. So business wise, she's not she's not dumb, for lack of better words. She's fully capitalizing. Now in my realm, I also coach basketball and train basketball, and what I saw once I got started was I saw, I would scan Instagram accounts just to see how, the businesses were operating or individuals were operating. I saw, guys that would list themselves, guys and women that would list themselves as NBA trainers, right? Now, not to say that these people hadn't trained NBA talent, but I'm scrolling through doing research, but I like to really get into the research part. Man, you ain't trained nobody outside of elementary school. Talk about you an NBA trainer, right? And here's the point. Because I operate in a certain moral and ethical realm, I don't add NBA trainer to my account. Now, technically, can I add that? Sure, I could add it, and then if somebody makes it to the NBA, they make it, right? And then technically, I'm an NBA trainer, right? From my perspective, to be an NBA trainer, you had to have one or several candidates or players get to the league, or you actually have to be coaching and training at that level. Anybody else, you're not an NBA trainer, but what you're doing is you're capitalizing on the need for trainers, especially considering parents want to spend so much money to develop their kids.
Yeah, and I think there are certain titles, certain things that garner prestige, right? So that is a piece of it too. Like, people want to go off of things that's like, oh, you did that, okay, you must be good, and so that, oh, this cost $1,000, it must be good. Doesn't mean it is. It just, that's that marketing psychology. of it all. And so people
Mm-hmm.
play into that because, and of course, I mean, people have been playing into this for decades. That's why we buy all the stuff that we buy. So,
Now let's be clear. If I ever got an honorary doctorate degree, you guys would be calling me Dr. Rel.
Dr. Rel.
Dr. Rel, I promise that.
I've thought about could I be Dr. Brooke? And I'm like, it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Not like I thought it would. Dr. Brooke. I was like, ah.
Now, I kind of wanted to transition the discussion, especially since we have, a child or son, in terms of what should we teach him about ethics, morals, especially in developing him, and what do we tell him about operating in that gray line? Because once he's 19 and 20, who knows what the world's going to look like with all of this technology? You may have to be self-employed. A lot of the jobs we had growing up may or may not exist. So, what exactly do we tell and teach him?
Great. What's your answer? Because I know you're not looking at me. Yeah. So what do we teach him? Give me that. Nah.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Right? We might have to teach him to go get it, to go get it legally. And if you, I don't know, if you decide to kind of bend the truth, you have to be ready for the repercussions.
Yeah.
Because I don't think in terms of
Hmm.
he's not that far along in school. He's in elementary school now, so he doesn't necessarily have to deal with it. But we know schools don't necessarily produce entrepreneurs. They kind of it's to me from my perspective, it's like a
It's producing workers.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Absolutely. Yeah. School is in public schools produce workers embedded with patriotism, all that stuff. Like that's what that's about. But I think I'm not sure. The one thing that I do know is I want to educate him on how things are, right? So maybe with time we'll figure out how we want to shape him to be, and he makes his own decisions with that. But how things are. So the multiple ways that things are. So yes, there are some businesses where people really try to help their employees and they really try to help their clients and customers and all that stuff, and they you know are a little more ethical and caring. And then you have the ones that aren't, and though anyone's in between. Like I think providing that education is important to say this is what's real. This
mhm,
is reality. Not like, oh, well, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna get a job, da da da. No, we're not gonna do this idealistic way. You need to know what's really happening in the world so that you can be prepared, so that you can understand and see, and then you can go out and make decisions for yourself. And
mhm,
for me, it's important for us to instill in him certain qualities that hopefully he'll take with him. It's vague, but
right,
because I feel like we're still figuring it out while trying to teach it.
right,
And that is very tricky and very challenging because I'm still learning some things too. Like, oh, this is not how this works. Oh,
right.
this works like this. Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's lots of things going on in this world. Like, at least for me, like, I realized over time there's so much going on in this world that I didn't realize 10, 20 years ago. So it's like layers keep getting peeled back. And I'm sometimes I'm flabbergasted by it. Like, oh man, there is, when you hear about certain files and you hear about, certain instances of things happening, and you're like, this is probably happening a lot, and
Mhm.
somehow I'm in a bubble. So how do I, get on my you know, what is it? What is that movie called? I am drawing the biggest blank. Neo. Come
Oh,
on.
Matrix.
Matrix. Like, right, how do
I
I
step
like
out of the Matrix.
step
Yeah.
out of the matrix and
Mhm.
like really see things for what they are, but not be so like worn down by it? Because I don't know if y'all remember like Matrix 2, like they was living in this weird looking, dirty looking, eating
Spaceship.
oatmeal world, and it just didn't look good. The
Right.
Matrix did kind of look better. But like, yeah, so just trying to like balance that of even in our age, we are still growing, right? Like I don't see me stop growing until I'm like gone. So I'm still growing, and then I have to help someone else grow. And so that, yeah, it's
Here-
a challenge.
Here's one thing I'll say about the school in terms of how different it was when I grew up. Now, we've talked about this all the time, and it's a tussle because my only comparison to being raised was my experience. I'm almost 50. We didn't have we didn't have our son until I was 40. So like the age gap and the difference between me growing up in the 80s and him growing up in the 2020s and is insane, right? So um, first and foremost, we look at the school system, and we'll touch upon this too. Is this school system that he's growing up in is strictly rewards based, right? So here's what I mean. You do X, Y, and Z, you get a trinket, you get a little toy, you get a squishy, you get a star. When I grew up, you did work. That's it. And you didn't do work, you got in trouble, right? You got detention. I will not talk, right? I will not talk. Had to stand in the corner, right?
Your parents were called.
Parents were called, right? Stay after school, you miss recess. These kids get in trouble and they have to walk and do a reflection.
A walking reflection.
What? A reflection? What?
A think sheet.
What is the think sheet?
It's a sheet of paper, and I think you write
down
what you did or something. Yeah.
Right. So the struggle with that is, especially since they're not outside like that, how do we develop him socially in reference to what we're talking about in terms of not what's the word, not sheltering him and actually having him learn about the world, as opposed to having him go through a semi-sheltered life because of school, because kids aren't outside experiencing themselves, and then by the time he's in high school he can't necessarily operate, or is just hit with a wave of stuff that he doesn't know exists, right? And so like, do we expose him to more adult like conversations, adult like show? I'm kind of at a loss for this myself, because you want to protect him. You don't want I don't want him to have to grow up like I did. He's growing up in the city in the '80s. I've seen you see everything. You've seen. I mean, I went through the whole crack era. Crack is whack and all this stuff like that. I've seen, people on drugs. You walk past drug addicts, and they're just a natural part of the environment. And because we live in a much better area than that now, I don't want to say he's sheltered, but he just doesn't have the experience of that. So like my concern is like, how can I be a dad in an environment that doesn't match the environment I grew up in? It's challenging for me.
Mm. So I was just thinking, because I don't know what struggles there'll be, right? Because he's not the only kid like this. All of them are like this in his, or most of them, I would say, in his school are like this. You have to do activities outside the house, so everything is paid. You have to go pay for basketball, soccer, football, tennis, whatever. Like
kids are paying for social development.
The kids are not playing outside in the neighborhood a ton. That's over here. There might be some neighborhoods where that still happens, but over here is not like that. I remember when I was growing up, there was a neighborhood I lived in, and it wasn't like that either, though. There wasn't a lot of kids playing outside, even though I knew there were kids that lived on the block. So it really just depends. Growing up in the city is very different from the suburbs. And so I feel like a lot of these kids are going to grow in similar ways. But I think the question is, right, when do we introduce certain things? And I think they definitely need to be age appropriate, because the things that I was exposed to as well when I was a kid, looking back, not age appropriate. Like, nah, because why do I still remember this thing? Why is it still having an impact on me? Yeah, because I was too little. And so their brains, are still developing, and it goes through iterations from kid to bigger kid, teen to young adult. Like, those are different iterations of brain development. So, trying to find that line of where are you introducing things, because we were introduced to things way too early, if shouldn't have been introduced to it at all. And is he not being introduced to enough? So how do you do that balance? I feel like, because I think other kids are going through a similar thing, I think he'll be in good company. But it's not like he's gonna be alone in this.
But that's the thing, right? We don't. If we want him in good company, he's gonna be a worker. We don't want our kid to be a worker. We want our kid to be. We want our kid to have a great and an exceptional life. I mean, if he.
Actually, that's his choice.
But we don't. No, we don't. We do not want him to be. We do not want him to want to be a worker.
It is his choice.
Disagree.
That's fine. It is his choice. Not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur.
No, not to say he has to be an entrepreneur, but he has to be exceptional.
Okay, but that's still a worker if you're not an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. That takes a certain skill set that you need to develop in that and figure out how to get the product or service out. And if you are the one doing the product or service, those are two different skill sets you have to have at one time, and it is challenging. Ask me how I know. But it's
He's
up to him on what he decides to do.
he's gonna be an investor. Sorry,
For
sidebar.
me, my approach is I need to teach you what I know, help you with the things that you are interested in to kind of for you to explore. I don't want to force certain things on you because then I'm trying to make you what I want you to be or make you into a little mini me. And to me, you might feel differently, but
Oh yeah, I do.
to me, you, I was a vessel for him. He is not like he then gets to choose life. He gets to take what we've taught him and say, this is for me. Okay, this maybe a little bit, this not so much. And he gets to be his own person that's still connected to us, but that is an individual, you know. And so it's like, yeah, I know there are people who are like, no, you have to go to college or you, excuse me, you have to be a doctor or you have to, and I know, and some of that can be very cultural. Some of it, again, we live in a capitalist society, so it makes sense. Like if he said, oh man, I want to be an artist, I'm gonna look at him like, great. When you major in art, you need to have a second major in business. Like that's what I'm gonna push because you have to figure out how to navigate the world that we're in. So no, I'm not gonna just be like, oh, do whatever you want. No, not that. I want to guide you to things and but be able to set you up in a way that helps you to do the things you say you want to do and do it well.
Disagree.
And
So
if you don't know, this is the challenge in parenting when you're not on one accord.
disagree. 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 Right. So he talks about being a gamer, right? And interestingly enough, that's why I got into technology, right? So cool, right? And I never told him that, right? So I don't know if that he inherited that through his DNA or something like that. It's actually odd. Now, did I end up making video games? No, it's too complicated, too much math for me. But that's a whole nother discussion. Bare minimum, he has to know how to invest. So I'm going to teach him to invest because
That's fine.
here's the thing. From my perspective, you can make money without dealing with people investing. Now, if you want to do other things, let your investments fuel that. He has no choice but to learn how to invest bare minimum. Now,
Okay.
does he have to play? Does he have to play sports right now? Yes, yes, because that's the only way he's going to develop socially. Like you get challenged mentally, you get challenged physically. You have to know how to operate within a team. You have to know how to follow your direction of your coaches. You have to be able to block out distractions. It's all metaphor. So he has no choice but to play sports. Does he have to play basketball?
Yes.
Nah, no. He doesn't have to play. I'll nudge him towards basketball. Um, basketball probably, but but we'll see. But those things are bare minimum. Now, if he wants to choose a career in economics, political science, fine. Whatever you want to do. Once you're 18, we'll be there to to bounce ideas off of and things like that. But in terms of the investing in sports, those are non-negotiables. Non-negotiables, and he will be playing a lot of sports this summer, and from this point on
Okay.
because
Well,
that's really the only way he's going to interact with kids socially. From what I see, I mean, he does a little bit in his aftercare program, but I don't think it's great for some of the challenges he needs for his development.
okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. He said he wanted to be a gamer. So this summer he's gonna take he's gonna do a summer camp that's based on making games. So why am I doing that? So that he can see, is
Hmm.
this of interest, right? Because if it's not, then okay, we explore other things. Now we're not going to spend forever exploring, right? But you can dabble in different things to see what has piqued your interest. Now he's in a position where it's
Everything's I
about
don't know.
everything. That's fine. But I'm paying attention to cues. I'm paying attention to where he lights up, even if he's not. And I'm trying to help kind of got him into, did you notice that, did you, but you said you like this, but to help him to see some of the ways in which he is like lighting up. Because even if he wanted, let's say he wanted to be a gamer, okay, does that mean you go to college? Does that mean you play video games but have like a YouTube channel or whatever else? Then we figure out ways to kind of help build that. But regardless, like, you need to know how business works. You need to
Mm-hmm.
know how um, the systems work so that you can navigate them. So I think our approach is different, but I think there's some ways for it to intersect,
Right.
that we're not in total opposition of each other, but he's going to have to decide for himself. And whatever we feel like about having integrity or ethics or whatever around business, we'll instill that in him. But it's up to
Totally
him
different.
to do what he wants. I mean, clearly, you see, there's a lot of people in jail or doing, not in jail, but doing some things whose parents probably did not instill those things in them. So people are going to choose to do what they want to do. You can only do what you can. So for me, we will see. But just to kind of circle it back, do you need to cross the line, dibble dabble over the line? Do you need to do that to be successful in business? Maybe. I don't know. And I only say maybe because I think it's idealistic to say absolutely not. But if you look at these businesses, a lot of people, that's all they do. And you just don't always know it. But that is what a lot of people do. Like, and I'm not, and I don't think, I don't want it to be necessary. I really don't. Like, I feel like we should be able to show up, do great work, get rewarded within the work system, and keep it going, keep progressing. And there are some places that happens, and there are a ton that does not. It takes you brown nosing, looking at taking credit for somebody else's work, doing all these things, getting people out who, you know, you don't like their attitude. But how was their work though? Did they do good work? That doesn't matter. All these things that people do to get ahead. Like, so somebody lying about a degree title, yes, I think it's problematic because she's in like the mental health area, right? I definitely think it's problematic. You don't need to do that. Um, but so many people do this type of stuff. And it's my goal to teach our son that this is what this looks like. I hope you don't choose this, but if you do, here go the consequences.
Right.
You might be found out. You might lose your business. You might get a promotion. You might become president.
Right.
like, I mean,
Right.
that is depending.
Right.
Depending.
So, all right, I'll circle back, or I'll kind of have my final 2 points. Is this right? 3 points. Right? So, former passive hours, like when I was kind of telling them about some of my ideas, goals, and vision, and like that, right? Told me this. One of the only helpful things he ever said to me. Sorry.
That guy.
That guy, yeah. So, Terrell, you cannot be capitalistic and altruistic at the same time. Like, you got to pick one. And it just stuck with me because I'm thinking like, yeah, you could do both. And he was spot on. You can't. Another one of my friends, James, he goes, total different discussion, and just about business and stuff like that. He's telling me like, yo, be capitalistic, right? You get your money, and then on the side you do your charity stuff once you have the money.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that. Yeah.
But if you try to mix and match both, you'll never reach your financial goals. And it actually makes perfect sense. For me, the last point, out in my points here is something similar to what Brooke just said. Is in terms of what do we teach our son? We have to teach them about calculated risk and, like she said, the consequences. Right? The consequences could be positive. They could be bags of money. It could be success, wild success, and all that stuff like that, or it could be jail time, right? So if you're gonna operate in a gray area or go one far to the left or far to the right, you have to know what the consequences and what the risks are. So, is there a risk to always being a rule follower? Maybe, maybe not. Is there a risk to breaking the rules all the time in this world that we live in currently? Maybe, maybe not. But
There is some in between too, though.
I was getting there.
Okay.
Now, of course, of course, there's an in between. You could tiptoe one pinky toe on one side, one pinky toe on the other. But ultimately, as an adult, we've hoped that we've instilled some things into him over the course of that time, where he can actually make a wise decision for himself.
Yeah. 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 And we'll see what happens with her. I'm Cheyenne.
She's gonna continue to have the Doc Squad. She'll
Yeah,
continue
I
to
think
make
she has
money.
some merch too, right? I know she had a book out. I don't know.
She's on a book tour.
I don't know if it impacted her book though. That's the one thing because I didn't follow because I don't care.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what consequences will that have? Will that impact people going to see her? I don't know. So in any way, I don't want to really end with her. I'll just end with we all have to make decisions and figure out what's best. And it's best to look at the range of decisions and the range of consequences because it's not always black and white. There is the gray area, but you never know. And there are certain things that impact what consequence you'll get. And it could be your gender, it could be your race, it could be anything, your abilities or disability, anything could impact that stuff. And just because somebody else was able to do something wild doesn't mean that you gonna be able to do something wild and have the same consequence.
Right.
Or not or not. I don't know.
Yeah, pay attention to your risk tolerance. If I had to end with one thing is
Mm-hmm.
say all that to say, pay attention to your risk tolerance and what are the potential outcomes if you go far in one direction, far in the other, or if you just kind of stay in the middle.
Mm-hmm. And I say all that to say, join us next time. Thanks for watching.
Like
Thanks
and
for listening.
subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, share.